In no way did I think this was possible.
With the 25th pick in the 2019 NBA Draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select Nassir Little from the University of North Carolina.
After a very wacky draft night, Portland reaped the benefits of a lot of other teams making questionable decisions. I mean, you had Cam Johnson going 11th, Tyler Hero going 13th, Chuma Okeke, torn ACL and all, going 16th. There was a lot of questionable players drafted ahead of Nassir Little that are not better than Nassir Little. And that meant that Nassir Little, after being a top 5 high school recruit, after being a McDonald's All-Star Game MVP, dropping 28 on Zion Williamson, who was the number 1 pick. That means the same Nassir Little, who's projected to go between 11th and 15th. That Nassir Little fell to number 25. Now, I was raving about the possibility of Portland potentially drafting Darius Bazley. But as I said on my live stream, I wanted Nassir Little over Darius Bazley. I didn't talk about Nassir Little though because I didn't think he was a possibility. I thought he was way out of Portland's range, and I also thought Portland didn't even have the assets to trade up and get him. So I was shocked that Little fell to number 25, and this is as good as it could have possibly gotten for the Portland Trail Blazers on draft night, outside of swinging some miraculous trade. Not only is he a lottery level talent, not only does he have potential to be a borderline all-star, but he also has the skill set and the positional fit that the Portland Trail Blazers needed. After drafting bigs and guards in the past few years, Portland finally had that wing that they need fall into their lap. And if you watched the live stream that we had on draft night, we were ecstatic. Now before I break down Nassir Little, I've been talking about the live stream the past couple days as if it was very stuttery and not in sync. And I forgot that I had the live stream up on my phone during the live stream, and I was watching it and it was smooth and it was in sync. The playback on that live stream is very out of sync, but it has something to do with the processing. The stream wasn't that bad at all. The stream was actually pretty good quality, so if you saw that playback, that's not how bad the stream actually looked. I'm also thinking about doing a free agency live stream starting at 3 p.m. on June 30th, right when free agents can start making deals. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at ToryJonesYT. And one last thing, I've wanted to get out more frequent videos in the past week or two, but it's hard to keep up with as much as I want to do. So if you're interested in helping me edit, then let me know down in the comment section below. And if you're interested in that, I have an idea to help you make a little bit of money off of it. So if you want to help out the channel, help me edit a little bit, let me know. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into the Nassir Little breakdown. Now, projecting Nassir Little into his prime, I could see this guy having 0 weaknesses. I expect him to be a solid, potentially good defender right off the bat in his rookie season. His physical profile is elite. 6'6" in shoes, but with a 7'1" wingspan and 8'9" standing reach. He has a great body for an NBA small forward. Reminds me a lot of Jaylen Brown. You combine that with his athleticism, his motor, the edge that he plays with, and you're looking at a beast at the small forward position. A player that we haven't had since I can remember. All those tools, combined with his instincts, will lead him to being a very good NBA defender, and he has the potential to be elite. Harkless and Aminu are good defenders, but Nassir Little could be noticeably better than both of them in my opinion. He's also a tremendous rebounder for his position. He averaged over 10 rebounds a game per 40 minutes at North Carolina. He has a nose for the ball, he goes hard after the ball, and then combine that with his physical tools, and he could be an elite rebounder for a small forward. That rebounding ability and his length could lead to him being a very good small ball 4. He would be a matchup problem at that position. So defensively and rebounding wise, this dude has the potential to be elite in both. The only question marks in his game come from the offensive end. He did shoot a very poor 26-27% at North Carolina in college, but he only shot 52 threes. It was a small sample size. Now looking at him in high school and then in his pre-draft workouts, I think this dude could be a solid, potentially good NBA shooter. I don't think he has a bad stroke. It actually looks very good from a side view. Very good, smooth extension. But looking at it from behind, he does have a slight hitch where his elbow is actually a little bit too far in and he pops it out upon the release. I think if he got his elbow more aligned with his shoulder, older, he would have a beautiful looking shot, and that's probably an adjustment that he'll make with NBA training. And honestly, his three-point shooting will be the key to him as an NBA player. If he can knock down threes at a very high clip, I think this dude could end up being an all-star. Gerald Wallace was an all-star without being a good three-point shooter, and that's a solid comparison for Nassir Little in my opinion. But I think Little has a little bit more potential as a ball handler, as a driver, and as a shooter. In high school and at times in college, he was able to smoothly hit shots off the dribble. You look at a guy like Aminu or Harkless, and their rhythm and their ability to pick up the ball off the dribble and go into a jump shot, it's not smooth and it's not something they do well. And even though Nassir Little was a poor shooter in college, when you look at the rhythm on his pull-ups, how natural it looks, I think this dude has the ability to be able to knock down pull-up jumpers. And when you look at how a guy like Kawhi Leonard progressed during his NBA career, he wasn't a great shooter in college at all, but he really worked hard on his shooting to the point where he was able to shoot pull-ups off the dribble from the mid-range at a very efficient clip. He was able to knock down threes off the dribble, and I see the same level of potential in Nassir Little. Now remember, Kawhi Leonard was the 15th overall pick. In this draft, Nassir Little should have been between the 10th and 15th overall pick. He's that talented. So although he went 25th, I don't think he's much worse than Kawhi Leonard was as a prospect coming out of San Diego State. And in pre-draft workouts, Nassir Little was reportedly shooting very, very well. He reportedly hit 73 out of 100 NBA threes with a workout with the Boston Celtics, and then he hit 36 out of 50 in a workout with some other team. That translates to 72 out of 100. Apparently he was shooting the lights out in pre-draft workouts, which is why it was so shocking to me that he fell, because I thought that could potentially raise his stock into being a top 10 pick, maybe 9th to Washington, maybe 11th to Minnesota before they traded that pick. I thought his pre-draft workouts meant that there was absolutely no way that he would fall to number 25, which is why I was so shocked. I also really like Little as a guy playing in transition. Now, Portland doesn't play much in transition, and some people say that's because of Stotts' offense, and that's what I lean to believe. Some people say that the players don't like to play in transition, aren't built to play in transition, or that sort of thing. And I think Nassir Little will help determine what reason that is that we don't play in transition, because this guy, he loves to play in transition. He's solid with the ball and really, really strong once he builds up a head of steam. A lot of guys that build up a head of steam are usually out of control, but from what I've seen of him, he's never really out of control. He makes his mistakes here or there, but he'll build up a lot of momentum going downhill in transition, but he'll be able to change directions or change speeds or make plays out of it. So I really like the way he runs in transition, and hopefully the Blazers play more transition basketball this season. Now, I also think Nassir Little has a lot of potential playing off the ball in terms of moving without the ball. You look at a guy like Jake Layman, who was able to get a ton of easy buckets just by moving off the ball, and I think Little has the same potential. I think Little can be a similar lob catcher because of his long arms, his tall standing reach, and his athleticism. You look at some of the backdoor cuts to lobs that Layman got playing off a guy like Yusuf Nurkic, and I have the same optimism for Nassir Little. And when you look at the tool set that I've explained so far in this video, and then when you look at Portland's culture and their ability to develop players, especially perimeter players, that has me extremely excited for Nassir Little going forward. Now, we'll get our first taste of Nassir Little in this year's Summer League, and now I'm even more excited for Summer League than I already was. This is probably going to be the most fun Summer League that I've ever seen as a Blazer fan. When you got Anthony Simons, who's apparently looking great so far. Apparently it's all coming together for him according to Neil Olshey. When you look at Scalabissiere, who I'm a huge fan of, and I really love his skill set, and he's a very fun player to watch. You got Gary Trent Jr., who dominated the G League, and if he can bring that to the Summer League, then he could win MVP. Mike Daum, who's one of my favorite collegiate players, as a guy who could really shoot the ball. He's kind of a poor man's version of Kevin Love. I think he could be one of those undrafted players that carves out a niche in the NBA, and we have him. You got Jalen Shord, who I am very high on as a two-way player, and I think could stick with this team going forward, and I'll talk about him more in an upcoming video. You got him as well, and then you add Nassir Nassir Little to that mix. I'm so excited for Summer League, and it's going to be a blast to watch, and I will have coverage of whatever goes down in Las Vegas here on Blazers Uprise, so stay tuned. And the last thing I have to mention is I really like what this does for Portland in terms of its roster construction going forward. First off, this offseason, it makes it easier to simply dump Maurice Harkless to save money in order to re-sign a guy like Al-Farouq Aminu alongside using the full mid-level exception for a guy like Rodney Hood. Now, Portland would still have to pinch pennies to make that work, but it'd make it possible. And why I think Nassir Little makes that possible is if Nassir Little can hit threes at a 34 or 35% clip, I think he could be one of those rookies that's a token starter. Kind of like how Noah Vonleh was before we got rid of him. Kind of like how OG Anunoby was his rookie season for the Toronto Raptors. A guy that could start, play good defense, which is a good fit next to Dame and CJ, knock down open shots to help space the floor for them, and play 15 to 18 minutes a game at the starting small forward. I think Nassir Little has the potential to be that guy right away. And when you look at a guy like Rodney Hood, who we're bringing back, who probably deserves 25 to 30 minutes a game, you could potentially be able to bring Rodney Hood back by getting rid of Maurice Harkless, and then you could slot Nassir Little in as that starting small forward playing 15 to 18 minutes a game, and have Rodney Hood as that sixth man off the bench playing 30 minutes a game, ending games at that small forward position as well. But also going into 2020, if Portland doesn't decide to take on any more long-term salary, you're looking at a bunch of very young players with a lot of potential that are cheap. You got Nurkic only making $12 million a year, which is a bargain. You got Anthony Simons, who I expect to blow up this year, and he'll be on his rookie contract still. You got Zach Collins still on his rookie contract. Nassir Little will be on his rookie contract, and I think he could develop into a very good role player right away. Gary Trent, I'm a little bit bullish on, but he could definitely develop into the shooter off the bench that we need. Skal Labissière will be a restricted free agent. His cap hold will only be around $4 million. That combined with our contracts off the books, you could have a pretty full rotation while also having a lot of cap space. If Portland declined Labissière's cap hold, I believe they'd have around $24 million in cap space. If they kept Labissière and extended the qualifying offer, then Portland would have about $20 million. But you look at that lineup, you got Dame and CJ at the guards, Nurkic at the center. Then you'd have a pretty full bench if all goes well, with Simons, Little, Labissière, and Collins. You'd only have to replace 2 rotation spots, which is the starting small forward and the starting power forward. Maybe Collins at that point is the starting power forward, so you just need a power forward or a center off the bench, but essentially you'd only have 2 positions in the rotation to replace. Maybe Portland could go after the same level of player as an Al Horford, and given the reputation that they're building, I think they'd actually have a chance to sign a very good starting player. You slot them in at small forward or power forward, then you have the cap room exception, and you'd be able to replace the other spot that you need to. Without Nassir Little, if Portland ended up doing that, they'd still have a rotation spot that they'd have to replace for a minimum level contract. So you're looking at a guy the level of Nick Stauskas being in the rotation. But now with Nassir Little, that's not a worry. So roster construction going forward just got a whole lot easier with Nassir Little on the roster, and that's not even considering the potential that I think Little has. All in all, this was an A+ draft in terms of keeping the pick. I haven't been this excited for a draft selection since Damian Lillard, and this was a great way to start a tough offseason. So let me know what you think of this draft pick. I'm sure the comments below are going to be glowing and very optimistic. I wouldn't expect anything less. So anyway, that's a wrap for this Nassir Little breakdown. Stay tuned for more player reviews coming up in the next week, as well as a Jalen Horde video. And with that, I'm out of here. This has been Tori. Hope you enjoyed the video. And like always, peace out. Go Blazers.